Potomac Beads. Join me in creating this Laluna bracelet featuring our Tubelet beads and some beads you may already have on hand. Remember, if you do need any supplies, check out the links below to shop with us online. Gather everything up on your bead mat and let's get started. We're going to begin our design by making a series of right angle weave boxes. The nice thing is this is going to go really quickly because we're using Tubelet beads. I'm using the Tubelet beads for the sides of my right angle weave boxes here, which will later come back and we will go ahead and embellish with some pearls and some crystals along the side. I have my 15 O's here in the Duracoat galvanized gold, as well as my tubelets in the white color. I have a stop bead on my thread, and you'll want about 5 feet of beading thread. The stop bead can go close to the end, just enough that you have something to hold on to tie a knot as you finish off the design. This bracelet, we're going to build the base and go up and then come back and embellish. So when we come back and embellish, that will give us an opportunity to put on our clasp. From here and getting started, we are going to build our boxes with 4 Tubelet beads. In between each one of our Tubelet beads, I want you to put one 15O seed bead. Starting with a tubelet, you want to make sure that you end with a 15O. The 15Os are going to work as spacers between those Tubelet beads. I want you to sew back through the first 3 beads, including the 2 15Os that sit in between. So your thread is coming in and starting near the stop bead and exiting through that 3rd tubelet. That's going to bring this into a box design and into a nice centered cube. From here, we're going to continue the pattern, which is going to include one 15O, tubelet, 15O, tubelet, 15, tubelet, 15. So you're changing the pattern that you're making sure you have 3 tubelet beads with a 15O between each and also at the start and the finish. Pushing that down on your thread, you're going to sew into the opposite side of the tubelet that your thread is coming out of. Your thread is always going to come out this right-hand side of the cube of the tubelet. I'm going to sew from the top to the bottom of that tube. From here, I'm going to sew my thread, so again, I'm coming out the right of the tubelet. To do so, sew through the next 15 that sits at the bottom, as well as the tubelet, the 15, and then again, I'm coming out the right-hand side of that box that I just made. Continue to add your pattern of 1 15, 1 tubelet, 15, tubelet, 15, tubelet, and then again, make sure you have that 4th 15 on. Let that all drop down to the current box that you have there. Your thread is coming out the top of that tubelet. You're going to sew into the bottom of the tubelet after adding on the 3 new tubelets. Once again, I need to get over to the right-hand side of the new box that I just created. To do so, I'm going to sew through the 15, the tubelet, the 15 before the tubelet on the side, and through the tubelet. You always want to make sure as you're making this base longer that you're exiting the right-hand tubelet on the box that you just made and exiting a tubelet, not a 15O. You're going to continue to do this the whole line for the base of the bracelet, and then we're going to add our clasp and work on embellishing the top. Once you have approximately 15 to 17 of your boxes here, depending on the size of your wrist, I'm going to add my cup button. Now I'm using one of the zinc cup buttons, and I'm looking for one that matches between my colors of my rondelles and my pearls. I have on 3 15Os after coming out of, the last of my tubelet. I'm going to add a 4th, and then I'm going to sew up through the back of that bead. Coming out the front then, I want to simply add 1 and 2 15Os, followed by one of my rondelles, which is that dark khaki color in the 1.5 by 2 millimeter. Once you have one of those rondelles on, you're going to go ahead and put on 2 more 15Os. Take your thread and needle through the 2nd hole of the cup button. You can see they sit in just that little peak there. And I'm going to push that back against my last tubelet. From here, same thing, 1, 2, 3, and 4 15O seed beads. And I'm going to sew into the bottom of the tubelet that my thread was coming out of toward the top. Think about just like sewing on a button now. I'm going to reinforce this and make sure I have at least 2 strands of thread through the button. Coming out of the button then, you want to try to sew through the seed beads at the same time, through the crystal, down through the buttons on the other side, and down through the seed beads that follow. Once you're down through all of those beads, you're going to once again sew down through the tubelet. Sewing down through the tubelet then, this puts you in position to get ready to add your first line of your embellishment. To begin the first of our embellishment, we're doing a very simple addition to our right angle weave. I have here my 6mm pearls, and those are in the platinum shiny color. And I'm going to put on my thread and needle 1/15-0, 1 pearl, 1/15-0. You're going to do this to every single box so that they lay in the interior. Coming out the bottom of the tubelet on the right-hand side of the box, you're going to sew into the top of the tubelet on the left-hand side of the box. That's going to bring that pearl and those seed beads so it sits right on top. This can be simply done, and you can actually stop at this point if you want just this nice embellished box of tubelets. Or once you're done, we'll add the loop, and then we'll continue to get our additional embellishment on top. So you can see I'm just continuing adding the pearls in that nice kind of diagonal stitch there, adding in a 15, picking up one of the pearls, adding a 15, and sewing down the other side. You can also do this with crystals as well as Czech glass, so there's lots of different options to change the look. Go ahead and continue adding your embellishment along the top of your tubelets the whole way down the project till you're coming out your final and last tubelet next to that stop bead. Once you're coming out the last one of your boxes, I want you to remove the stop bead. It's right there. And then after removing the stop bead, I want you to tie these 2 thread ends together because they're in the right place. Once these are tied together then, we're going to get ready to add the loop for our button. To add the loop for our button, I want you to start off like we did the other side, where you have 1, 2, 3, and 4 15-0s, but then I want you to add 1 of your crystals. After that, you're going to add a series of your seed beads, a good way to clean up the mat, approximately 34 of them. Once you have these all on your thread and needle, we're going to do like we did with a cup button, where we choose to go back through the tubelet and reinforce this loop. If you want to, you can also do a nice peyote stitch loop featuring some of the crystals and making a little bit more fancy. Once you have on the appropriate number of seed beads, you want to create your loop by going back through that small little crystal there. If you don't have the 1.5 by 2mm, a 2mm crystal will work fine, a rondelle, a round. This pattern is pretty forgiving. From here then, we're going to add 1, 2, 3, and 4 of our 15-0 seed beads and go back into the tubelet from the other side. Coming out the tubelet then here on this other side, just like we did the button, go ahead up, reinforce the entire loop, go back through that little crystal, back through the 15-0s, and then we'll be back in place once our thread is back here in this original location coming out the tubelet. Coming back through the tubelet now, your thread is going to be exiting through that top tubelet. What I want to do is get over to the corner. So I'm going to sew through the 15, through the tubelet here. And then we're going to sew down through the pearl as well as the 15-0 seed beads. To do so, you're going to go from the tubelet through the 15, through the pearl, and through the 15 again. Once you're exiting through that 15-0 at the end of the pearl, which we're going to do this every single time, I want you to pick up 4 of your 15-0 seed beads, followed by 1 and 2 of your rondelles. We're going to take this around the pearl, but first we're going to catch on to the corner. To catch on to the corner that sits to the top right of the pearl, I'm going to sew into that 15-0 kind of backwards. So I'm going to sew from the top toward the bottom. It's going to pull this along the side of the pearl and then push those crystals up a little bit. Coming out there, add 1 more of your crystals, and then you're going to sew back through the first crystal that you added. So see there how it goes back through the first? What that does is it makes almost a little heart shape of the crystals that are going to sit on the side of each of our boxes. So see how it has that little kind of heart shape. You could do it in red, and that would look beautiful. After coming out that crystal, add 4 more of your 11-0 or of your 15-0 seed beads. Go back into that same 15 pearl 15 and out the 15 after the pearl. That's going to hug that right on the corner of the design. From here, we need to get from our first box over to our second to embellish that as well. From here, I'm going to sew back through my right angle weave to get to the exact same spot of the previous box. So I'm going through the 15-0, the tubelet, going to go through the 15-0 and up the tubelet that sits at the side of the box, through the top 15-0, top tubelet, top 15-0. Sometimes it'll let you do it at once and sometimes it won't. We'll come out after the tubelet if it'll let me. Doesn't want to go through there. There we go. And then once you're out that 15-0, you're going to sew through the 15, then through my pearl, then through the 15 on the other side. Once you're there, we're on repeat. So we're going back into the idea of creating that little side piece. 1, 2, 3, and 4 15s, followed by 2 of my crystals. Those 2 crystals, I'm going to go up to the top of that corner seed bead. So from the top down toward the side tubelet, pushing all of those beads toward the top of the design, pulling my thread through. Once those lay at the top there, add 1 more of your crystal. So back through that first crystal toward the second crystal, like you're progressing along the piece. And once you get that in there, you're going to add 4 more seed beads. Your 4 more seed beads get added. And then once you have those 4 15-0s on there, you're going to go back into your 15 pearl 15 and straight down. That puts that little seed bead section again in that top right-hand corner. You're going to continue embellishing, getting this nice almost vintage, and then you're getting a crescent look. So that's where the name came from. As you go down and embellish all of your pearls along the design. After you have the design on the top of all of your boxes there, you can see how simple and fun this one-sided kind of crescent design is. I wanted to show also some other options that if you have bigger beads or if you have red beads, they look like a cute little heart on the side. And then also another option is to add 2 15-0s in place of the crystal. You can go as big as a 3mm if you're doing that and just have that 1 crystal along the side. Another idea, if you do want to, is to actually do both sides of the piece. So as you're exiting here, after doing your one side of embellishment, embellish the other side as well, so that way it looks like it's wrapped in. Tons of different options on different ideas to use when embellishing these simple right angle weave tubelet boxes. When you are at the end and you've done your last little addition, you're going to take your thread and needle through the base tubelet, through those base 15s. Again, those tubelets on the corners, sometimes your needle will go through, sometimes it just doesn't want to because they are at a different angle. I'm going to go through my last tubelet on the left-hand side of that last box, and then once again I'm going to reinforce my button and my beads. After I come down from reinforcing, I'm simply going to tie a knot and finish off my piece. So I'm just taking the thread and needle through the piece a little bit. And then back through the design and knotting off. Where I'm going to knot off is somewhere along one of these bridge threads along the side. Taking my thread underneath and between two of the beads, tying or making a little loop, sewing through that loop not once, but twice through that loop. So you take your needle and thread through that loop that you just made twice, pull slowly so you make sure you don't get the second knot kind of in there first, and then give a nice tight yank to pull it into place. Take your thread and needle away from that knot, do it one more time, and then burn off the thread edge. You can see then how pretty and simple this bracelet is on the wrist. You can either put the crystals to the bottom, you can put them to the top, and it has a nice flow even if you want to make it a necklace and have a nice statement piece. As always, thanks so much for joining me in making this Laluna bracelet. Remember, if you do need any of the materials, the tubelets, the pearls, crystals, or seed beads, check out the links below to shop with us online at PotomacBeads.com as well as PotomacBeads.eu. You can also do a little thumbs up and please comment below and let us know any changes that you made, any ideas that you may have to embellish the tubelet beads, as well as inform the beading community any tricks or tips or techniques that you think would be helpful. It really is an amazing way to build up this awesome craft and the community around it. Likewise, you can post your pictures of your finished designs in our Facebook group for beading and jewelry making. As always, thank you so much for watching. Enjoy your new bracelet and happy beading.